Welcome to the Making More Possible podcast. I'm Keisha Jackson.
And I'm Wendy Ditmore, and we're your hosts. Each episode, we're joined by leaders and executives from our International Association of Microsoft Channel Partners, the Black Channel Partner Alliance, and Microsoft to have open discussions about allyship, addressing underrepresentation of Black and African Americans within the tech community, and how to inspire new tech leaders, and how we're all working to drive change within our communities, both near and far. For this episode, we're extremely grateful to have two longtime partners who are creating the change they want to see within the Microsoft Partner Network. Through the Black Channel Partner Alliance founders, Frank Valdivieso from Griffin Consulting and Nyasha Tunduwani of Real Impact Technology Consulting. Welcome, gentlemen. Great to have you.
Great to be here.
Thank you, Wendy. Good to be here.
Well, thank you again for joining us. It's been great engaging with both of you as partners and now as leaders of a partner-led organization that is dedicated to creating true change. So let's jump right in. So let's start. Can you tell us what was the catalyst for the Black Channel Partner Alliance and what was the need?
Absolutely. So, Keisha, you've heard this story, but a few years ago, I was at Inspire, which is a large global conference. I believe one of the largest for partners that's held by Microsoft every year. And I had been there 3 days, and I was sitting at lunch with my friend Jason Walker. And I asked him, I said, look, Jason, I've been here for 3 days. I haven't met an African-American founder or owner of a partner business. Where are the African Americans? And we were in DC, and Jason looked at me and he said, you know, they're serving lunch. And that was real, right? So 3 days into one of the biggest conferences for partners, and the African Americans are serving lunch. You fast forward to the events around George Floyd's murder and everything else. And, you know, I thought back to that moment as we had these conversations about what we could do. And you know, really felt compelled to find a way to make sure that when I'm in those spaces, I have other Black founders and African American founders around me. And I just found the situation to be so unacceptable that I had to act. And fortunately found a group of people that were equally dedicated, and my other co-founders, so Frank, Danny Brown, and Lauren Anderson. And we came together to form an organization that would really allow us to grow Black-owned technology businesses.
Awesome. And I think I understand that you recently had a launch event that supported your organization. And it'd be great if you could share with everyone a little more about your mission and your goals.
Yeah, so Wendy, three main goals. One, we want to impact 100 Black-owned tech companies. We want to help them to realize at least $1 million in net new revenue. We want to create 800 new tech jobs in the industry. And lastly, we want to perform 1,000 digital transformations for community-based organizations. And community really is a big part of what we're trying to emphasize here. And there's really such strong alignment. I'll never forget the meeting, the IAMCP meeting, where Gabriella basically announced this initiative. And I can remember calling Nyasha right away and saying, oh my God, the time is right, the time is now. We've got alignment here. Microsoft is leaning into this issue. And what I really loved about how there's really synergy in what Microsoft is leaning in on, especially with the Microsoft Black and African American Partner Growth Initiative, but what we're trying to do, and it's really impacting three key areas, right? So with our goals, we want to impact our partner organizations with wealth development. We want to make an impact in our communities, and that's in line with a lot of things that Microsoft is doing, and then people as well. So those three things, those three pillars really make up the foundation of what we're hoping to impact as part of this program.
Awesome. Wow, those are huge, tremendous goals that I expect would have some really strong impact. It'd be great. Could you share more about how these goals ladder up to the opportunity to create that generational wealth that you talked about and help close the racial wealth gap?
Yeah, so basically, you know, as part of coming up with the organization, we needed to research where the starting point was. It turns out that at this point in time, the net worth of African American families and Black families is about a tenth what it is of white families, right? If you take that into consideration when you're trying to form a business or trying to start up a venture, your ability to take risks with a tenth of the net worth is significantly less than someone else who has more than that, right? So that's one of the statistics. Uh, Black-owned businesses are disproportionately affected by incidents that happen within the community, COVID being a major one. So 41% of the Black-owned businesses closed in the first 3 months following COVID. A key factor there was lack of access to capital and that lack of wealth. So what we're doing in collaboration with partners, Microsoft and others, is they've provided some access to capital, which is critical. But for us, it's really building those sustainable companies that achieve the growth and can have access to the opportunities that help drive that growth and build that wealth for them.
Yeah, can I just add something here as well? And I think this is kind of the community piece as well. And so, when we were coming up with this, we knew that community involvement and our ability to have an impact in our communities was also important. So, going to COVID, right? We all know that COVID is definitely disproportionately impacting the Black and brown communities, right? And so, and if you look at it just from a workforce perspective, right, less than 20% of our workforce is able to work in jobs that they can perform remotely. So again, here's where alignment comes with, I think, with what Microsoft is doing and what we want to do. You've got the digital skilling initiative, right? So the beauty of that is we're in a time now, and I think this is kind of this watershed event in our history, if you will, in this industry, where we have the capability now to deliver training and provide access to people who have been displaced, right? And again, this is something that I see in my job personally as it relates to some challenges that I've had with hiring candidates. But now with digital skilling opportunities, right, you've got individuals who before probably would be excluded from this industry, can get up to speed on specific skills, and then be hired into a position in the IT industry. So again, that's really a focus for us, and we're really looking to leverage our partnership with Microsoft Tech for Social Impact in really making an impact in the community sector, specifically in Black and African American communities.
Excellent, thank you. So through the goals and these glaring statistics that you're both sharing, I'm hearing that we have a great opportunity to take collective action to solve long-standing systemic issues. And you all have been working with our team and across multiple teams at Microsoft, really, who are supporting the Black and African American Partner Growth Initiative. So what role do you all hope to play as we grow representation of Black and African Americans in the Microsoft Partner Network?
The thing we're looking at is really having Microsoft operate as a model partner for us, right? So the gaps that exist. So when we looked at the Sin City study, which was commissioned out of the University of Washington, they identified 3 key areas which were challenges for Black-owned business. So the first was access to education, so business education. We know that we can partner effectively with organizations that can deliver that. The second was access to capital. There are programs that are doing capital for Black-owned businesses today. The third was access to markets. Now, this is an area which is very developed in, say, the construction sector for Black and minority-owned organizations, and in the retail sector with pathways for people to be able to get products to stores. Within the technology space, this has not been addressed at all. So what we're looking to do is really collaborate with the larger companies, so Microsoft and the partners in the ecosystem, to help them diversify their supply chain by using some of our partners and allowing them the ability to access some bigger opportunities that then grow companies that are sustainable and can scale.
Yep. And, the other thing too is we're also want to change the way we've been partnering. So perfect example. So Jason Walker's coming on board to really lead our federal government pillar. And the way traditionally business has been carried out, and that to a large degree, and a lot of times, is that the large primes will put out, if you will, kind of a request for information. And then you have the subs basically saying, well, this is what I can do, and what do you have for me? We want to change that paradigm, right? There are a lot of Black-owned tech companies that are working in these agencies that have fantastic relationships. And what we want to do is say, no, we're not putting our hand out. We're coming to you because we have opportunities and we could use you as a teaming partner to kind of help us win opportunities. So that's one way in which we want to kind of change the conversation that we're having. Another is one of the things that Danny Brown is doing with that meetup. I mean, to me, it's kind of a groundbreaking way of how distributors work. He's taking a very holistic view of how his organization can help partners win business. So traditionally, this is an issue that you pick your vendor of choice. They all have this issue, which is they do a great job in telling you about their offerings and providing you resources to kind of sell those offerings, but they don't ask you the question. They don't ask you the fundamental question is, do you know how to sell, right? Do you need some sales training and support? Do you need some larger infrastructure? And so again, that's one of the things, again, I credit Danny at that meetup with how they're trying to engage with our community to look at us more holistically and provide us that additional support to help our partners be successful and kind of help them reach these goals, really making an impact not only for their organizations, but in the communities in which we live and serve.
Mm. I love that. I love the idea of coming with opportunities. It's not about coming with a handout. And I think that's a really important point. So thank you for sharing that. Now, to shift gears just a little bit, we've talked about what it takes to power the entire ecosystem to really uplift all the communities. And that leads me to ask, what do you think those who consider themselves allies can do to support BCPA and your mission?
Perfect. So I think when we talk about this, right, when most people think about helping, they think about doing something outside of the thing they normally do, right? So we've been fortunate to benefit from some phenomenal allies that are just doing what they do regularly, but able to help empower the businesses that we're collaborating with. So for example, Justin Slagle, his superpower is really around driving growth for small businesses, right? Yeah. And helping partners grow. So Justin's been instrumental in helping us get into the room so we can present what we're trying to do to some of the larger partners. He also has offered to step in and advise as we build our accelerator out on how these smaller companies can grow and which opportunities are right size for the organizations. So when we talk about allies, it's not necessarily about going beyond the scope of what you do already. If you've already helped to build partners, then do that. If you're already hiring people, reach out and find some of the organizations that we have that can help you staff, or reach out and we'll give those opportunities to our network, right? There are, billions of dollars transacted every single day. For us, if we can succeed in finding a way that a portion of each of those dollars makes its way to one of our partners or the companies that we represent and support, then I think we've done our job. And so we really do want support. It can be mentoring, it can be guidance, it can be coaching, but we want people to do what they're phenomenal at. If you're a phenomenal marketer, come work with our partners and help the market better, right? That's how we envision, because it'll give you the most satisfaction. It's an area of strength for you, and you get to learn and engage with high energy partners that are really, really motivated to deliver results and deliver impact within our communities.
Yep. Yeah. And I think the other thing here, so Keisha, I think you might be the first person I heard to kind of use this phrase, and I heard Karen use it again at the WIC Summit, and that is power of community. All right. We've got such a great community, a great ecosystem of community organizations. So for example, Women in Cloud, let's start with them. I love the fact that they are unapologetically focused on helping women-owned businesses, achieve, gain access to opportunities. To that end, they've been hugely successful, right? And so we've kind of entered into a partnership, which we did announce at the WIC Summit, whereby we're going to be leveraging that framework. Again, I'm a big believer, if you want to be successful, do what successful people do. No need to reinvent the wheel. So we're going to be leveraging that. That, again, is another example of the power of community. IMCP, right? They have been just an amazing support organization for BCPA. Again, they were one of the initial founders that kind of gave us the seed money to help us start this organization. But more importantly, and I think it's one of the tenets that they really instill, and again, as Nyasha likes to say, we've got IMCP in our DNA. And to that end, what we mean is partner to partner opportunities, right? There should never be a situation where a partner is in front of an opportunity and feels like they cannot provide all the services, right? Our network is vast. Trust me, if there's something that you can't do, I guarantee you there is a partner in this community that can help you with completing or delivering on that particular project. So definitely community is going to be a huge part of what we leverage. Again, it also goes to us doing basically leveraging our superpower, right? And that's another term. And Nyasha's got a lot of great terms, right? Superpower is another one, right? Leveraging our superpower. And I think, with BCPA, our superpower is really going to be focused on helping Black-owned tech companies, providing them access to opportunities and shortening, if you will, the onboarding and the on-ramping of getting them to be really productive partners in this ecosystem. So definitely the power community is going to be a very, very important piece of what we leverage to be successful.
Excellent. I know we are coming towards the end of our podcast and our recording here, and I would be remiss if I didn't offer both of you the opportunity to speak to two things before we conclude. And so I'd love to hear your answers on both of these items. So I would love to get a high-level snapshot. There's a lot of energy and passion in this conversation that we've been having, but I would love to hear specifically from you as individuals why you're so driven with this work. Like, what's your kind of your genesis into coming into being tech entrepreneurs, one, and two, on the other side of that, we've talked a lot about community and the power of partnership in this network. When you think about family, when you think about legacy, when you think about this next generation, what is it like? What's the headline that you want the next generation or your younger family members, if you will, to take away from the work that you're doing? Light, easy questions.
Yep. I could jump in and start.
Yeah,
I
go
would
ahead.
love for the headline to be that the BCPA has defunded because that problem no longer exists, right? That there's no longer a need for BCPA because we are all equally provided the access to opportunities and support, and we all have a seat at the table and are being heard. So that would be just fantastic. I think for me personally, that's what excites me about this. The other component that I love, and again, I didn't mention this before, but I love the partnership that we have with Microsoft's Black and African American Partner Growth Initiative, where the two groups are really coming together to really shorten that on-ramp, right? So to really get partners really productive really quickly. You kind of combine what they're doing and what we're doing. I think we have a tremendous opportunity here to accomplish that. And when I look at the other piece of this for me that just is really driving me, and I'll never forget Nyasha, again, I got to thank Nyasha for a lot of these things, but really introducing me to focusing on the nonprofit sector. And again, now for me, it's about how can we with technology have an impact in our community, the Black and African American community, where we know that nonprofits are definitely those organizations that are providing a lot of the services that individuals can't get through normal means, right? They don't have the means to access either food, housing, name your issue, and nonprofits are really delivering in that space. And so I'm just super excited to be associated with helping those organizations leverage technology so that they can be more effective, more efficient, and then also providing more jobs and opportunities for people in the Black and Brown communities. So
Excellent. I know I peppered you with two questions at once. So let me get to my first question. Can you give us like a 60-second version of what is your genesis and how you came into tech entrepreneurship and why this work is important for you?
Kind of long story. So kind of interesting. So my background, I actually went to school to study computer programming, went to work for a large system integrator, worked there for about 10 years. And then old manager kind of hired me away to come to work for a small minority owned business here in the DC area. And from that moment forward, I just got the bug for starting my own company. I just, entrepreneurship, I got the entrepreneurial bug, if you will.
Yes.
And there's nothing better. And what I love doing is solving problems, right? So for me, it was that, making that transition into owning my own company, being able to have an impact on my customers, if you will, and the community in which I serve. And so now where my focus is really is about helping my community. I got so tired of seeing young or just applicants, applying for jobs as help desk candidates, where I couldn't hire them because I was using traditional methods, if you will. So there's some new practices that we're employing, such as apprenticeships, that kind of help employ to basically provide opportunities to the individuals that traditionally I would not have been able to bring on board using traditional methods. So I think for me, it's just a realization, just a passion for wanting to help. I am now in a position, and as a partner, and these programs that we're talking about, specifically through the BCPA, where hopefully I can even make a greater impact in my community as well.
Awesome. Thank you. And then Nyasha, same two questions for you.
So I started programming when I was about 12 in school, and my father, who was I'd say visionary, bought a Commodore 64 that I programmed on at home. I moved away from that as after my teenage years, and then when I turned 19, I was working at an Indian restaurant downtown, and Amazon moved into the building above us. And I was serving, working as a server, waiting tables. And I talked to an engineer from Lycos, which was then a masterful search engine, who had just moved over. And he said, you should study HTML. And so I did. I got a job doing web. I want to say web design, but back then it was just HTML code. And my next job was at a travel agency where I did that, and then I worked for Virgin Airline Vacations and did systems administration. And I'm a second generation business owner. When September 11 happened, my wife's company needed some help, and so one day a week I would help them. And I always knew that I would start a business, and the timing was right. I was 30, I didn't have kids, and I said, this is the time. And so struck out and went out and did it. It's really funny looking back, because I had no fear about what being in business entailed back then. I knew the worst case scenario, I could always find a job. But when I thought about selling, which is about 5 years ago, one of the reasons I stayed in was there aren't many owners that look like me, right? And for you, when you ask about legacy and you ask about the importance, it's really the fact that when my kids and other kids look up, they can see themselves reflected in owners and entrepreneurs in our space, right? There's a great thing, I think it's Jim Rohn says, about possibilities, which is imagine the possibilities as the first step. And the second step is imagine that they're possible for you, right? And so it is my job to make sure that kids that look like me imagine the possibilities and understand that it's also possible for them.
Wow. Absolutely. That I love and appreciate a good quote. So immediately after this, I'll be looking that up and putting it on my vision board. Frank and Asha, thank you both so much. You all always inspire me, and just hearing your story as partners and the work that we've done over the years has been quite the inspiration for the work that we do. So I just want to thank you for joining us today. And as always, your insights and perspectives are greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Yes,
Keisha.
thank you
Wendy.
both. Thank you so much. This has been incredible. Listeners out there, join us as we discuss in future sessions how to make more possible through allyship, addressing underrepresentation of our Black and African Americans within the partner ecosystem, and by inspiring our future tech leaders. Until next time, think about how you can go out and make more possible. Thank you.